My sister chose a family dinner to announce she was sleeping with my fiancé. Not a phone call. Not a private conversation. A tablecloth and wine kind of dinner with Mom, Dad, and our aunt all watching. She waited until dessert. She said his name first, then mine, like she was announcing a trade. She said they'd fallen in love. She said it had been going on for months. Then she looked at me, smiled, and delivered the line I'll never forget. "You're unlovable," she said. He told me himself. The room went silent. I watched my mother's hand freeze halfway to her water glass. Dad looked down. My aunt cleared her throat. Nobody defended me. She saved the cruelest line for dessert. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything or storm out. I just sat there nodding slowly, letting her think she'd won. I didn't correct a single assumption. Because here's what none of them knew. I wasn't blindsided. I'd already known about the affair for weeks. I'd seen the texts, the hotel charges, the late-night patterns. I'd already spoken to a lawyer. I'd already made my decisions. And I knew something far more important. They had no idea what I'd already signed. My sister kept talking, filling the silence with details I didn't need to hear. She talked about how much happier he was, how much more compatible they were, how natural it all felt. She said she hoped I'd understand someday. I nodded again. I even said I hoped they'd be happy. Receipt. The signed documents were already locked in my desk drawer at home. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my sister's hand. She actually congratulated her. Dad mumbled something about these things happen. My aunt asked when they planned to make it official. I excused myself quietly. I drove home alone. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post anything. I sat in my apartment and stared at the envelope I'd been keeping for weeks. Threat. They all believed her story, and they all thought I was the fool. But I knew something she didn't, something legally binding. The messages started the next morning. Friends, distant cousins, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all of them weighing in. Some were gentle. Most were not. A college friend texted to say she'd always thought my sister and my fiancé made more sense together. A cousin called to tell me I should be graceful about this. Another asked if I was okay, then added that my sister had really blossomed lately. Mom used the word upgrade to my face. She didn't mean to be cruel, I think. She said it over the phone, trying to smooth things over, trying to explain why everyone was so quick to accept the new couple. She said my sister had always been the prettier one, and that my fiancé had probably just realized he wanted the upgrade. I hung up. Cost. I stopped answering my phone after that. The social fallout was immediate. My sister posted photos, dinner dates, hand-holding, captions about finding the right person finally. She tagged him in everything. He reposted some of them. I kept one envelope sealed in my desk. The comments piled up. Friends congratulated them. Family members left heart emojis. Nobody questioned the timeline. Nobody asked how I was doing. Nobody seemed to remember I existed. I withdrew. I stopped going to family events. I stopped checking the group chat. I let the silence grow around me. Reframe. Isolation, I learned, can be a kind of clarity. I spent a lot of time alone those first few weeks. I went to work. I came home. I didn't date. I didn't vent to anyone. I just waited, because there was one call I was still expecting. His family stopped calling, except the estate attorney. The voicemail came late one afternoon. A calm, professional voice asking me to return the call at my earliest convenience. He said it was regarding a legal matter. He said it was time-sensitive. I saved the message. I didn't call back right away. Then the estate attorney's office called with urgent news. My sister announced her engagement 3 weeks later, posted the ring, the story, the whole performance. She said yes to the man she'd stolen from me, and the internet celebrated. I was sitting in my car when I saw the post. The photo was professionally shot. Sunset, beach, her hand angled just right. The caption was something about soulmates and timing and meant to be. She posted ring photos that same afternoon. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I put my phone away and drove home. That night, The estate attorney called again. This time I answered. His voice was measured, careful. He asked if I was sitting down. The lawyer asked if I was sitting down. He said there had been an accident. He said my fiancé had died, suddenly, unexpectedly, just days earlier. He said he was very sorry for my loss. I didn't speak. He paused. Then he asked a question that didn't make sense at first. He asked about my legal status. He asked if I was still listed as next of kin in any capacity. He asked very carefully whether I had documentation of my relationship. I said I wasn't sure what he meant. He clarified. He asked if there were any contracts, agreements, or legal instruments that named me. He used words like beneficiary and estate planning and trust structure. Threat. I realized my sister didn't know he was dead yet. I told him I'd need to check my files. He said that was fine. He asked me to call him back as soon as I'd reviewed my paperwork. He said it was urgent. I said I'd call him back after I found the paperwork. I hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment. Then I walked to my desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out the envelope I'd been keeping. Inside was a single document. 2 pages. Signed and notarized. Receipt. A marriage certificate, dated months before the affair started. The memory came back in pieces. The courthouse. The quiet ceremony. The promise we'd made to keep it secret until after the big wedding. His family's trust required a legal spouse by a certain age. We'd planned a huge celebration for later, but we'd signed the paperwork early to meet the deadline. And then the affair had started. And I'd never told anyone we were already married. Reframe, which meant my sister had been sleeping with my husband. He asked if I still had my copy of the marriage license. I called the attorney back the next morning. I told him I had the document. He asked me to scan and send it immediately. We'd signed the papers on a random weekday morning. It had been his idea. Not romantic, not planned, just practical. He'd explained the trust situation over coffee. His grandfather's estate required a legal marriage before a certain birthday. The big wedding was already scheduled, but the timeline didn't align. So we went to the courthouse. We brought 2 witnesses we didn't know. We signed the forms. We took a photocopy. We promised to keep it quiet until the formal celebration. The trust required a legal spouse by a certain age. I remembered the way he'd smiled when the officiant declared us married. I remembered thinking it felt anticlimactic. I remembered him saying, "Don't worry, the real one will be better." The real wedding never happened. The affair started a few months later. I'd found the evidence slowly. Texts, charges, late nights. I'd confronted him once. He'd denied it. Then he'd stopped hiding it. But he'd never asked for a divorce. He'd made me promise to keep it quiet until the big ceremony. Had I'd kept that promise even after I knew he was cheating? I don't know why. Pride, maybe. Shock. The hope that it wasn't real. I'd told myself I'd deal with it after I had space to think. And then he died. The attorney called me an hour after I sent the scan. His tone had changed. He asked if I could come to his office. He said we needed to discuss the estate. I asked if my sister had been notified of the death. He said the family had been informed. He said my sister had already reached out, claiming to be the fiancé. He said she'd asked about the trust. Threat, she thought she was inheriting. The attorney said nothing publicly had been released yet about next of kin. He said the trust documents were very clear. He said the terms use the phrase lawful spouse. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Receipt. He'd never filed for divorce because he'd never intended to marry her. Reframe, I wasn't his ex-girlfriend. I wasn't even his ex-fiancé. I was his widow. The attorney asked me to come in the following morning. He said he'd have the trust instruments ready for my review. He said we'd need to begin the estate transfer process. I hung up. I sat very still. My sister had stolen my husband. She'd humiliated me publicly. She'd called me unlovable. She'd announced an engagement to a man who was legally married to someone else. And now she believed she'd inherit his fortune. Move. I scheduled the appointment for the next day. And according to the trust, I was his widow, not his ex. The attorney's office was exactly what I expected. Leather chairs, dark wood, framed degrees on the wall. He set a folder in front of me. Thick, indexed, tagged with colored tabs. He walked me through it page by page. My name appeared on every single page. First, the marriage certificate, certified copy, verified, legally binding. Then the trust instrument itself. Pages and pages of legalese, but the critical paragraph was highlighted. All assets shall transfer to the lawful spouse of the beneficiary upon death. Lawful spouse. Not fiancé. Not girlfriend. Not partner. Spouse. Receipt. The trust named me by legal status as sole inheritor. He explained that the trust had been established decades earlier. That the language was ironclad. That my marriage, though private, had been properly recorded and was fully valid. He confirmed that no divorce had been filed. No separation agreement existed. I was, in every legal sense, the surviving spouse. The lawyer asked if I understood what that meant. I said I thought I did. He slid another document across the desk. Evaluation summary. Assets, accounts, holdings. The amount was enough to change generations. I read the number 3 times. Then I set the paper down and stared at the wall. I'd been living in a small apartment, working a job I tolerated, budgeting groceries, and the entire time, I'd been legally married to a man whose family trust held enough money to rewrite a life. I read the documents over and over to be sure. Reframe. Everything I thought I'd lost had actually become mine. The attorney explained the next steps. Transfer filings, tax documentation, notifications to interested parties. He said the process would take several weeks, but that the outcome was certain. He asked if I had any questions. I asked what would happen to my sister. He said very carefully that individuals without legal standing would receive nothing. That claims based on an engagement or romantic relationship held no weight against a legal marriage. Threat. She would get nothing and she still didn't know. I asked when the family would be notified. He said formal letters would go out once the transfer paperwork was filed. He said it was standard procedure. He said all interested parties would be informed. I nodded. Cost. I felt grief, rage, irony, and exhaustion all at once. I signed the forms he put in front of me. I initialed the disclosures. I provided the information he requested. And then I stood, shook his hand, and walked out into the cold afternoon. My sister was still posting photos, still planning her future, still telling everyone she was about to become very, very comfortable. The entire trust fund was mine, legally, irrevocably, completely mine. My sister went into overdrive. She booked a venue. She hired a planner. She posted mood boards and cake tastings and dress appointments. She acted like a widow planning a celebration of love. She asked me to contribute to the funeral flowers. The message came through the family group chat. She said she was coordinating a beautiful service and asked everyone to chip in. She said it was what he would have wanted. I didn't reply. Mom did, though. She sent money. So did Dad. My aunt posted a heart emoji. My sister sent a private thank you message to everyone who contributed. She signed it on behalf of the family. Threat. She was performing grief while planning a wedding. I watched it unfold from a distance. The venue she chose was expensive. Oceanfront, exclusive, non-refundable deposit required. The venue deposit she put down was non-refundable. She posted about flowers, seating charts, menus. She talked about honeymoon destinations. She changed her relationship status to widowed and healing. The comments poured in. People called her strong, brave, an inspiration. Nobody mentioned me. I still hadn't said a single word. The family kept pushing. Mom called to ask if I'd attend the memorial service. Dad sent a text about closure and moving forward together. My aunt suggested I send a card. I blocked their numbers one by one. Cost. I accepted that I was done with all of them. The estate attorney called midweek. He said the paperwork was nearly complete. He asked if I was ready to proceed with the formal transfer and notifications. I said yes. He said the letters would go out within days. He said my sister, as someone who'd made inquiries about the estate, would receive a copy. I asked what the letter would say. He said it would state, plainly, that the estate had been settled according to the terms of the trust, that the lawful spouse had been identified, that no further claims would be entertained. Receipt. He said my sister's name would not appear anywhere in the documents. Reframe. She'd built an entire future on a lie she didn't even know she was telling. I thanked him. I hung up. That night, my sister posted a photo of her wedding binder. Tabbed sections. Highlighted timelines. A checklist titled Our Forever Day. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened my calendar and looked at the date the attorney had given me for the wire transfer. It was scheduled for the day before her bridal shower, so I scheduled a meeting with the estate's legal team. The transfer cleared on a weekday morning. I received an email confirmation from the bank, then a call from the attorney. The wire transfer cleared on a Thursday morning. He said the funds were now in my account. He said the legal notifications had been sent to all interested parties. He said the estate was closed. I thanked him. I sat in my car in the parking lot and stared at my phone. The number on the screen didn't look real. Move. I'd gone from budgeting groceries to generational wealth in a single transaction. An hour later, my sister's attorney called my attorney. Her attorney called mine exactly once. The call lasted less than 10 minutes. My attorney called me afterward to summarize. My sister had hired a lawyer. She'd claimed she was the common-law spouse. She'd argued she was entitled to the estate. Her attorney had reviewed the trust documents, reviewed the marriage certificate, reviewed the timeline, and then her attorney had called back and withdrawn from the case. Receipt. There was no legal argument to make. The notifications landed that afternoon. I didn't see them myself, but I heard about them. My sister received a formal letter from the estate. It stated that the trust had been transferred in full to the lawful surviving spouse. It thanked her for her inquiry. It stated that the matter was closed. It didn't name me, but it didn't need to. Threat. My sister knew immediately. The phone calls started within the hour. My sister, my mother, my father, my aunt. Unknown numbers I assumed were friends or cousins. I didn't answer any of them. The voicemails were frantic. My sister screaming. My mother demanding I call her back. My father using words like fair and right and family. I deleted them all. Cost. The last thread connecting me to them snapped. That evening, I received a cease and desist letter from a different attorney, my sister's second attempt. It claimed I had defrauded her. It claimed I had manipulated the estate. It threatened legal action. I forwarded it to my attorney. He called me an hour later, laughing. He said the letter had no legal basis. He said he'd respond with copies of the certified marriage certificate and a polite suggestion that her counsel review the file more carefully. He said we'd hear nothing further. Reframe. She'd spent weeks planning a future that had never existed. The bridal shower was the next day. I didn't go. I didn't send a gift. But I heard later that she'd canceled it the morning of. The money landed in my account the day before her bridal shower. My sister appeared at my door just after midnight, screaming. I didn't open it. I watched through the peephole as she pounded on the wood, shrieking my name, demanding I let her in. She called me a thief, a liar, a snake. She said I'd stolen everything from her. I called the police. They escorted her off the property. I filed a report. Threat. She tried twice more that week. The family group chat exploded. I wasn't in it anymore. I'd left weeks earlier, but screenshots found their way to me through an old friend who still had access. The family group chat fell completely silent for days. My mother had demanded answers. My sister had sent paragraphs of accusations. My father had tried to mediate. And then, apparently, someone had asked for proof. Mom asked for the truth in writing, so I sent copies of everything. I didn't send it to the group chat. I sent it directly to my mother. A PDF packet, the marriage certificate, the trust instrument, the timeline, the attorney's summary letter. I included a single sentence. This is what happened. I owe you nothing further. Receipt. The documents spoke for themselves. My mother forwarded the packet to the family. I know because the chat fell silent immediately after. No one apologized. A few people left the chat. My aunt sent a single message. I didn't know. My sister tried to spin it. She claimed I'd trapped him. She claimed the marriage was fake. She claimed I'd forged documents. Her claims went nowhere. Cost. She'd lost the inheritance, the wedding, and her credibility. The venue kept her deposit. The planner billed her for hours worked. The dress shop refused a refund. She threatened to sue me. She posted vague accusations online. She tried to rally family support. But her second attorney quit. She threatened to sue. Her lawyer quit that same afternoon. Reframe. The meltdown I'd been bracing for was somehow both devastating and hollow. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. I changed my locks. I changed my number. I asked my attorney to handle any further contact. And then I disappeared. I moved sometime that spring. A new city. A quiet neighborhood. A place where nobody knew my name or my story. I blocked the last number sometime in spring. I didn't tell my family where I went. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I simply left. The inheritance gave me options I'd never imagined. But it didn't give me peace. That part I had to build myself. Therapy taught me the word enough. Enough trying to justify myself. Enough hoping my family would understand. Enough waiting for an apology that would never come. I learned to sit with the grief, not just for him, but for the version of my family I'd wanted them to be. Cost. I had to accept that some people will never see you clearly. I didn't spend the money recklessly. I didn't flaunt it. I didn't post about it. I paid off my debts. I bought a small house. I invested the rest with advisors who understood privacy. The trust bought me time and space, not happiness, but a chance. A chance to rebuild. A chance to decide who I wanted to be when no one was watching. I started small. Morning walks. Cooking again. Reading. Therapy twice a week. I made a few new friends. People who didn't know anything about my past. People who liked me for who I was now, not who I'd been. Move. I built boundaries that felt like freedom. I never spoke to my sister again. I never reconciled with my parents. I didn't attend family events or respond to holiday messages. I chose distance. I chose silence. Reframe. And in that silence, I found something I hadn't expected, myself. The last time I thought about revenge, I realized I didn't need it anymore. She'd lost everything she'd tried to take. I'd gained everything I'd thought was gone. That was enough. If this resonated with you, share your story in the comments. You're not alone, and your boundary matters. I never saw her again, and I built a life from that silence.